Welcome to This Explainer, Why Rich People Love Inflation But Workers Suffer. Now, I know that's a pretty striking statement, isn't it? I mean, inflation is that universal headache we all share. It's the exact thing you and I shake our heads about at the grocery store or when we're filling up at the gas station. But here's the wild part. Almost nobody truly understands the hidden mechanics happening behind the scenes. For most everyday workers, inflation just feels like this harsh, unyielding punishment. But for the wealthy, well, it's a completely different story. For them, inflation actually acts as a massive wealth builder. And that hidden financial reality, that's exactly what we are unpacking today.
So that brings us right to the core mystery of this whole topic. Why does inflation make the wealthy richer? Seriously, just think about that for a second. How on earth can an economic environment that makes everyday life so incredibly stressful and expensive for the average person actually benefit the people at the very top? Well, we're about to explore two starkly different financial realities. We're going to see exactly how the economic machine processes the exact same event, rising prices, and somehow spits out two completely opposite results depending entirely on who you are.
Okay, let's dive into this. To really wrap our heads around this paradox, we need to imagine two totally distinct profiles living in the exact same economy. First up, we have the 9-to-5 paycheck. This is your normal worker who relies entirely on a fixed monthly salary. Then, on the flip side, we have the asset owner. This is an individual whose wealth is tied up in tangible things, stuff like houses, stocks, businesses, or maybe even commodities like gold. These are our two parallel subjects, and inflation is about to hit them both head-on.
Section 1. The worker's burden, the reality of rising prices.
Okay, so when inflation hits the economy, the worker suffers the consequences immediately. The warning signs are literally everywhere. Groceries, rent, gas. The exact same cart of food that cost you $100 last year, suddenly it's costing you $120. Your landlord hikes up the rent for the exact same cramped apartment. The numbers at the gas pump just spin higher and higher just so you can commute to the exact same job. But here is the absolutely critical, really painful piece of the puzzle. Your salary stubbornly remains exactly the same. The bills jump higher, but the paycheck doesn't budge an inch to match it.
So, the crucial point comes down to something called purchasing power. Put simply, this is just the amount of goods or services that one unit of your money can actually buy. Because everyday costs are rising but wages are just totally static, the worker is quietly, almost invisibly, losing purchasing power every single month. It acts like a hidden tax. They are working the exact same 40-hour week, putting in the exact same exhausting effort, but their money affords them less and less as time goes on. It's just a wildly stressful financial reality to be trapped in.
Section 2. The asset owner's advantage, multiplying wealth.
Now, watch what happens on the other side of the fence. While the worker holds cash and watches its value steadily drop, the wealthy hold assets. While everyday prices at the grocery store go up, so do the prices of their assets. Their homes become vastly more expensive on the real estate market. Their stock portfolios consistently rise, hitting record highs. The businesses they own? They simply adapt to inflation by charging higher prices to their customers. They aren't holding static cash. They're holding the very things that are inflating in value. It's like they're surfing the wave while everyone else is drowning in it.
Which leads us to this massive, undeniable takeaway. Inflation secretly transfers wealth toward people who already own assets. The source material points this out as a fundamental, mechanical reality of our economy. It's not magic, guys, it's just math. When the value of money drops, the value of tangible assets surges. This hidden wealth transfer is exactly why, during major economic crises and periods of high inflation, we often see these reports of billionaires calmly becoming significantly richer. They are perfectly positioned on the receiving end of the inflation wave.
Section 3. The lifestyle inflation trap, the cycle of debt.
Let's move to and see how this builds, because most workers think earning more money is the magic silver bullet to beat inflation. So what do? They work incredibly hard and finally get that 5% raise. Awesome, right? But almost immediately, they upgrade their lifestyle. They finally lease that better car, they move into the bigger apartment, buy the newest expensive smartphone, maybe add a few more monthly subscriptions. And this inevitably leads to accruing more debt to finance this newly upgraded lifestyle, which just drops them right back into the trap. Yes, their paycheck grew, but their expenses grew even faster. It's an exhausting financial treadmill.
And this brilliantly illustrates a fundamental difference in behavior. Workers often try to save cash, which, as we know, loses purchasing power every single year, while simultaneously spending their extra money on liabilities, things that decrease in value or cost money to maintain. But wealthy people, they play a completely different game. They take their extra money and buy assets that naturally grow during inflation. They acquire things that become more valuable over time. It's a completely different financial rulebook.
Section 4. Changing the financial game. Ownership versus hard work.
All right, here is the ultimate takeaway from our source material. The system rewards ownership, not just hard work. It's a tough pill to swallow, I know. The worker is out there sweating through the 9 to 5, doing everything right, but watching their purchasing power evaporate. Meanwhile, the asset owner might not be working any harder at all. Actually, they might not be working at all, but because they own a piece of the system, a property, a share of a business, an investment, they are heavily rewarded when prices rise across the board. Which leaves us with a really critical question to chew on. If your only source of income is a paycheck, how will you begin to change the game? As our source makes abundantly clear, if you only rely on a salary, inflation is mathematically working against you every single day. So take a hard look at your own financial life. Are you trapped in that cycle of saving cash and buying liabilities, or are you figuring out a way, even just step by step, to begin acquiring assets? It's a profound shift in perspective. Thank you so much for joining me. Keep analyzing the world around you, and I'll see you next time.